Be like a sponge when it comes to each new experience. If you want to be able to express it well, you must first be able to absorb it well. Jim Rohn. Hello, everyone. My name is Shiran, and the object I think best describes me is a sponge. So, a sponge is used to soak up and absorb as much water or liquids as possible in order for it to do its task. A sponge best represents who I am because, similar to a sponge, I have always been a soaker, an observer, and listener, soaking in my surroundings as much as one can. And in order to be able to squeeze the water, it must absorb. Similarly, in order to teach and communicate our knowledge, we must first absorb and listen. I will be speaking to you guys about the reason I find a sponge to best describe myself, as well as how it relates to communications and my goals within communications. As I mentioned, I have always been a good listener rather than a loud speaker. Friends, family, and even strangers will generally come to me to share their stories or their secrets, which comes with a lot of pressure, but I've been really good at, keeping quiet and not saying anything. I have been a listener as well as an observer, and I enjoy observing my surroundings, and by doing so, I feel like you can learn so much. Another reason I chose a sponge is because I am someone who loves traveling and truly miss it, as I'm sure so many of you do. I enjoy new adventures and exploring new places. When I travel, I get to absorb my new surroundings that are different from my everyday rituals out here in California. From nature trips, I observe the beautiful scenery and noises of birds chirping in the morning, or when I'm at the ocean, the waves hitting the shore. Even with city trips, I love people watching, and I feel as though you can learn so much from others, even without verbally communicating with them. You can just by watching and absorbing, you can learn so much from their nonverbal behaviors. Next, I also want to speak to you guys about how a sponge relates to my approach to communications and my goals within it. Like most of you, if not all of you, I am a communications major. One of the reasons I chose this major is because, as much as I enjoy, everything that comes along with being a communications major, I also find it as a challenge, which I think is a positive thing. What's interesting is that one of the reasons I chose communications, and this class specifically, as well as some classes in the past, is because I wanted to learn and overcome my fear of public speaking. So I still get really nervous, as some of you may have already seen, when we have to do a speech or speak in front of the class or on Zoom. And um, but I believe that observing others through learning is beneficial in achieving success, in overcoming fears, and my goal, becoming a greater public speaker and a more confident one. So, although public speech is not my greatest skill, I find that one of my favorite things is, fun enough, communicating with others. And I believe that the relationships we create with people, with other people, and the communication we create within these relationships is so highly important. I learn so much from the people around me. Even with strangers, I will strike up a conversation with anyone. You really never know what you can observe and learn from someone, even from, standing in line at your local grocery store, striking up a conversation. What are you going to do? Text a person? You can wait 5 minutes, strike up a conversation with the person behind you, in front of you. You really don't know what you can learn in even such a short amount of time, or within just a few words being exchanged. As I mentioned earlier, traveling is what I call my battery charger in life. And other than eating large amounts of delicious local foods, my favorite thing to do when I do get to travel, hopefully once the pandemic is over soon, is getting to communicate with the locals in town. I find that uh, even though people come from different backgrounds or speak different languages, there's there's always a way to connect, communicate, and learn from those who are similar to us, but even more so, those who are different from us. My goal once graduating with a communications major would be to have the luxury of traveling all over and getting to document and listen to stories of people from all over different cities, different countries, different upbringings, backgrounds, gender, age, all different types of people, especially those different from me, but also similar. And not just absorb, but also getting to share what I've learned from these local people, and I'm being able to share it with others. There is so much out there that we can learn through observing places and people through both verbal and nonverbal communication. I know I spoke a great amount on the absorption factor of a sponge, which I personally find to be the most important part of what it represents. Yes, this sponge represents who I am as an observer, someone who absorbs and listens to their surroundings as much as possible. Yet at some point, the sponge fills up and needs to be squeezed out in order for it to be able to absorb again. And that is exactly what I want to do and hope to learn more and more how to do so. As much as soaking up is important, so is squeezing out. What good am I if you can't squeeze me out and allow me to share what I have learned or will learn through the years of soaking in everything I've observed or learned or experienced, so that I can communicate it with others and teach others what I have learned? Whether through informative or educational learning, I want to use what I learned in my communications major and in my years of absorbing and soaking up all sorts of different things, and be able to share and teach with others. I have spoken about the reason I find a sponge best describes me, as well as how it relates to my approach to communications. I feel I am a sponge in this world, soaking up and absorbing as much as I can, as well as learning how to squeeze out and teach others what I have learned. Tony Robbins, a highly influential speaker, once said, "Knowledge is not power, knowledge is only potential power. Action is power." Thank you.